Today, we're going to be looking at the new Captain's Thrasher from Missy Gannon. I do have a Thrasher that we'll compare it to, but ultimately, this disc seems to want to fight for a spot in the FPO driver, or kind of the throwing around 400 feet, like straight to stable distance driver that has some glide category. That was a mouthful. But two other discs that this really reminds me of, seeing as though Missy Gannon is one of the top FPO players of this generation, and arguably ever, are the Grace, which is made famous by Kristin Tattar, 11.5 -1-2, and the Drive, 11.5 -1-2. Oh, this is actually 11.6 -1-2, so more glide from latitude. Obviously, companies are making their own flight numbers, so we're gonna get out into a field, throw a couple of smooth, about 300 to 350 foot shots just to get them started and see how they fly, especially compared to another Thrasher. Then we're gonna play 9 holes to see who is the queen of distance drivers. First throws. Done. We're gonna start with the Captain's Thrasher, the Z-Flexi metallic one. Got a little head right to left. Set this as a baseline. The flight numbers on this guy are a little weird, for sure. Here's a normal Thrasher. I'm throwing these mostly smoothies, kind of still warming up. A lot more flip. Grace. Interesting. Interesting. PP Drive. Okay. And last but not least, Captain's Thrasher. Those are not very far. I'm gonna guess they're all in about the 350 range. I'll confirm if I'm right around here. Thrasher, Drive, and Grace were all about 320 to 330. In both of these Captain's Thrashers, I did give them a little more flex and a little more airtime. They're right at about 355, 360. Now, the reason I say 12.502 are such interesting flight numbers is that you almost only see the 502 on everything up to about a 9 or 10 speed. Even 10 speeds, you start to get to 403 when it's pretty overstable, or a -1-2. I don't know, at least I can't remember if I've seen a driver that has flight numbers that end in 502. Because even something like a Wraith, when you're throwing it at high speeds, it's -1-3. And a lot of that might have to do with the fact that companies get to dictate their own flight numbers. So in a sense, flight numbers don't matter. But in my opinion, they create like a marketing and an expectation. And so that's why I care about flight numbers, because for instance, when the Simons Tesla is a 9.5 -1-2 and someone's throwing a bunch of discs that are 9.5 -1-2, MVP, their flight numbers are more like pro flight numbers. So you have to have really high arm speed to get there. But that's not what a lot of people are gonna be expecting, because that's not how most other people do flight numbers. And so what's interesting about these is I think these are more marketed towards the FPO arm speed, or kind of the throwing up to about 400 feet. I don't quite know how far Missy Gannon throws, but the Thrasher, I'll put the actual flight numbers on the screen. I'm gonna guess it's about -2-2. Pretty flippy for someone who throws really far, especially someone who throws farther than I do. And then this one, I noticed that it seemed to fly like a disc that I would expect to have a -1-2 flight rating, kind of like the Birdie Disc Golf Supply Reach. It'll flip a little bit, and then it will have some fade. At least that's what I expect from those first throws. So 12.502, kind of interesting flight numbers, but I think these flight numbers are more geared towards FPO flight numbers. And so if you're throwing those distances, this is probably what you can expect that disc to fly like. Flight numbers should get standardized. It's very confusing, but it's a fun talking point in every video. And then everyone gets all up in arms in the comments when you talk about it, no matter what. Let's get on to the course. Start these 9 holes, and I'll show you the profiles after we throw them a couple more times on the course. We'll start out by throwing the Thrasher a decent bit, but that'll phase out because we're really just comparing to see if Paige, Kristin, or Missy has the best FPO or 400 foot and below distance driver. All right, just walked up here. Shout out Mason, recognized me, asked if I was filming for this channel, Banana Froth. That's how you know he's a real one. He said, from what he'd seen people throw, it didn't really seem like a 0-2, so we had a little discussion, then I had him throw it. Give his quick little one-shot opinion. What do you think?
It feels good. Well, the rim feels a little wider than a normal Thrasher.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a real 12 speed.
Yeah.
Rip it.
I don't know if they're super far, but deep.
Oh, dude, you rip. You lied to me.
I don't rip that far.
You rip, bro.
That's probably right to the...
That's right at the normal pin. That's perfect.
I think it pushes pretty far, for sure. 0-2 is probably a little generous, but I think for AMs, that's going to be great.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
I do think modified overstable, pretty good turn. Hole 1 is a 631 foot par 4. Got a pretty straight headwind blowing in our face. I actually just filmed a distance competition that'll be right between hole 8 and 9 with these guys, just to warm up a little bit more. And I thought it was a tailwind, and then I walked up here and it was more of a headwind, so it's swirly, man. But we'll go Captain's Thrasher first, and then we'll throw the Thrasher, and then these other two. And I think I've already started forming some opinions on why I think it's marketed the way that it is. So that's pretty good to the short position. Honestly, left it inside. My goal with this round today is to throw smooth shots. I'm not really trying to throw very hard. That's obviously, we'll see that a little bit more in the distance comp. And maybe if there's a shot that really calls for it, but in general, I'm trying to see like, if I am trying to down tempo a little bit on these, to use them for me a little bit more as like glidey control drivers. Hopefully that'll show you today. Here's the Thrasher, which I'll try to compare on that same line. Like I'm not throwing that crazy hard, obviously a little headwind, but that's probably about gonna be the difference that you'll see between those. One's gonna flip up and ride and one's gonna hold a hyzer. So very different discs. These might be in between those two, but after throwing the Captain's Thrasher, I honestly think they might be more similar to the Captain's Thrasher, just maybe with a little less hookup and a little less glide because of the dome. Grace next. Wow, these are smooth flying discs. And drive. That one might have a little more pop-up, but they're all pretty similar. Nice and glidey. I gave those ones the width they needed. I will say, for me, those are all very easy to throw, and I still think I can torque into them. So I think they're discs, all three of them. You really can't go wrong if you choose them and are not throwing super far, like probably in the 3 to 350 range. They'll be pretty overstable for you. They'll probably fly more like the flight numbers of the Captain's Thrasher over the Grace or the Drive, which are both -1-2 discs. You probably won't see that turn unless you're throwing over 400 feet, maybe 375 to 425, but they're all discs that I still feel like confident that if I wanted to really rip into them, I could get them on the right angle and still do that. And they're not just gonna like burn over weirdly on me. The Thrasher, maybe a little too flippy for that, but I think the Captain's Thrasher is such a good complement to that Thrasher that Missy has. And it still seems like it wants to go very far. Oh, no way. If the Captain's Thrasher is where I think it is, that might go farther than these other ones. It might be like the 12 versus 11 speed difference. This is my normal Thrasher right here, the one that flipped up. For reference, this is Mason's Captain Thrasher. Just a little behind it. Sweet shot, really perfect shot for this. I put myself into bad positions over here. Okay, so the Drive is the shortest, then the Grace, then the Captain's Thrasher. Starting with this Drive, then the Grace, and finally the Captain's Thrasher. I like how far that pushed. I don't think I threw it significantly harder than these. We'll see if it continues to go a little farther, because if it does and it has the stability that it has, it would be an interesting little control driver slot for my bag. Maybe, who knows? I think that's really good actually. Oh no, I saw that way early. Never mind. Grace, we got a backhand over here. Upshots with these not going well right now. Captain's Thrasher to take the early lead. Touchy little shot here. Wow, that didn't even really get stable from that distance either. Interesting. Good thing we're throwing these for drivers instead of approach discs. But when you're reviewing, baby. About 40 feet with the Drive. I think Mason's shot might have been the best shot of the whole entire group. That's brutal for me. Cap Thrap. I keep wanting to say Cap Thrap because of the cap wrap. Cap Thrash. Birdie. Now, Missy Gannon and Paige Pierce aren't really known for their forehands, whereas Kristen is. She does typically forehand Rives, not Graces, from what I've seen. But we're gonna throw out this left side. It's only about 260, so I think if we just throw smooth, kind of flat to hyzer forehand, they should all glide their way to the basket because they're pretty fast discs. This one is pretty domey though. It's probably between this and the Drive. Nope, Drive's a little more forehand comfortable. This definitely feels to me more like a backhand comfortable disc in terms of how it sits in your hand. But obviously, you can forehand anything. Well, if you're good. I can't forehand anything. I'm sure you can. Also pretty weak. Still trying stuff with my forehand. Not going the best as you can see. Grace next. That's better. So when you're throwing them on a 260-foot forehand, those were both kind of a little short inside the circle, but like good shots. I would take those for sure. They do have that like hookup, especially because you have less. I have less spin on my forehand, probably about 400 or 500 RPMs. So even that's like not gonna flip up, but still gonna be a decent shot. Love putts from all of them, and now we'll just quickly look at the Thrasher. So even that one for me on this little short forehand, it gets the counter skip because it's flippy and now it's parked. But you can see how it like kind of tried to stand up a little bit, but you're throwing them so short. But not too much difference of all these discs. A little more overstability from all the ones that are not the Thrasher. But if you're only throwing forehands about 250 to 275 feet, not gonna see a crazy amount of difference in these. Noise. I picked up the Grace rather than grabbing one of those discs because we got people on the tee pad behind us. Good thing we got a par 4 up next. All right, 720 footer. We do have wind blowing straight in our face, so we could throw this big hyzer out there. I'd like to play the Rhodes OB, makes the hole a lot more interesting. And even with this wind, I think these are all good enough that we can give them some high flexes and see if we can get over all the trees. There's a 520 foot position that's kind of way back there, kind of right where Mason is, if you can see him down there. I don't think we'll be able to get all the way down there right now, but Captain Thrasher 2 for 2. Grace, we're counting that 1 for 2 because I made it from here. Drive, still waiting on his first birdie. So it does have like some good drift for being a 0-2. Like I said, probably it's like could be considered a -1-0 or -1-2 maybe. That was pretty good. Didn't really turn as hard as I thought it would in that headwind. Grace is up next. The Grace might go as far, if not farther, than this guy. So it does have some. It seems to have some more turn. It released relatively similar angles, and that one drifted to a further angle. Ah, I hit a last tree. Let's see if we can kind of match this driving. Oh, don't throw a hyzer, buddy. What are you doing? Well, I saw where it came down. It's not gonna be an easy up and down, but boy, yikes. In my head, the drive is flippier than the Grace and the Captain Thrasher, and I think that that is the case. Ever so slightly though, not enough that I can't flex it over these trees. But for some reason, I threw a hyzer, like a little baby. I gotta throw some good shots with that thing, because I feel like I'm disrespecting Paige a little bit, and I did not mean to be. Just over this log to the trees that are on the right side of the log. We'll go a standstill. Probably got about 300 and maybe a little less. Oh, it's going right or left. I'm bad at directions recently. I thought that might have popped up a little more and rode on it. It has some good stability for sure. Where is this guy? Oh wow, a little gap to go through to keep this one perfect. Did get some good distance for sure, even for not getting the extra turn like the Grace did. This is gonna be a tough shot. Just like that. Just gotta get the distance. Oh, a little skip left, but I think that's pretty good. Honestly, kind of just stoked that I found this disc in here. Kind of throwing a blind hyzer. If I birdie at this, that'd be sweet. Oh, it's gonna be left and short. Beauty. A beauty of a drive. The feel of it, I talked about before. It's like round on top and bottom. And when I did my birdie or die video here, all those goodies that Discraft sent me, I was actually starting to really love the drive, and then I gave it away because I didn't birdie with it. And so apparently we're continuing that trend on the channel. At least it's parked now for par. A long look from the Grace. Threw a really good shot with a Cap Thrash, about 25 feet long, because it's tough to slow that baby down. Let's go. Alrighty, 290. Basket kind of at that tree of slight right to left, but we still have to trust these because my forehand's a little puny. So swing through, throw it with the shoulders, slight turn. Ay, ay, ay. More turn than that, dude. That thing does have some beef to it. I think the flight numbers are very accurate if you're the thrower that we've already talked about a couple times. Grace next. Oh, that's trust. It's still probably gonna be a little short, but better shot. Drive, come on, park it. Finally get a birdie. Nice. Go in. Short, that might be parked though. I do have the other Captain Thrasher, which is the ESP. They seem to have similar stability. This one feels like it could be a little flippier. That's really nice. We'll have to throw that against the Z Metallic Flex one as well, Swirl one, which, if that's even what that is, because I think it might have a little bit more push, but I finally trusted the drive to be very similar to the Grace. Those flights are very, very similar. We have a Grace, about 35 that side. Drive, absolutely parked. Brutal. Right between those. Now we need an ace with the Captain Thrasher to keep it perfect through 9. Drive, absolute park job. Oh, this is 25. What was I talking about? 35 feet. The headwind. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. We skipped a hole so that we could finish on a 375-foot forehand after the distance comp. It is slightly downhill, but I'll try to see how smooth they fly when I give them a little bit of juice. We have a gauntlet of 3 nice tunnel shots, or at least gap shots. So you can see the basket through here. We have to go straight through this gap. There is like a right side or a left side forehand. There's a tree that's like super chewed up over there, and I don't need to add to that anymore today. The drive has the box, and at 270 feet, I know not everyone's throwing drivers at this distance, but some people might. And so if you want to see how they try to hit a gap, first I'd recommend throwing something slower. But second, hopefully I recommend doing what I'm about to do with all three of these. Kind of like that. 2 more times though, hopefully. Skip. Oh, counter skip. Still putting. And the grace. Best shot. That was smooth. Oh, so much wind taking it. Those are all putting. See if we can get 2 more in a row. Regular Thrasher. Oh, yeah. That's so smooth. I like that disc. Every disc has passed the level 1 gap. The level 2 gap is now a 340 foot shot instead of 270, and the level 3 gap is a 460 foot par 4 that we're gonna try to take the outside Anheuser gap through and see if we can give ourselves an eagle look. So both Captain's Thrashers, interestingly enough, are here. This one was low, and I think maybe because it flexed a little, lost some speed, whereas those ones are more like flatter. Maybe they're, I don't know. That was interesting. They're both a little shorter. Oof. With a little double park job, it's got its way back to 1 back of the Cappy Thrashy. This next hole, if we can get this next hole, that would be sick. This might actually kind of be a more forehand gap with these discs. This is the gap we're looking at. It's gonna start to look a lot bigger when I zoom in, unfortunately for me, because it's gonna be a little more embarrassing if I don't hit it. It is definitely like just a straight backhand. There is a way to get their forehand. There's an over the top, not nearly as fun. This is level 2 of the gauntlet. No! Did not make the gauntlet. Grace time. Flip. Okay, Grace is, maybe it's closer in like steps of stability, in equal steps. Because I thought that flip harder. Captain's Thrasher. This one's gonna be tough because we're gonna need to give a touch of flex out of hand and not hit this left side. A little too much flex. That's the right shape though, I just kind of missed the line. Both the Grace and the drive snuck through to some long looks over there. See, like, it gets stable, but that's pushy in a tailwind on Anheuser with a disc that's a 0.2, you know? That's pretty nice. Oh, baby. Oh my gosh. Just can't make putts, I guess, from 80 feet. Rude. So before I got into these final 3 holes, I needed to go and figure out exactly how these discs fly. So I backed up from that basket that we were at 545 feet, and I found that the Z-Swirl Metallic, or whichever the blue one is, tends to have the most overstability, at least late flight. I also threw the ESP Swirl one, and it feels a little more understable. It's also like 1 or 2 grams lighter, but it flies a good bit more understable. It kind of flies closer to the Grace does. If not, no, it probably flies close to the Grace, but with maybe a little more late hookup because of the shape, which I'll also show you in a second after this hole. And I feel like I'll have a better idea of how to explain how they fly because I've thrown them so much. Then we'll do ace rounds, the distance contest, and if I don't get a birdie on the 9th hole with a forehand, it's like 375 down a hill, I'm gonna be giving one of these guys away here before I leave because this place is packed. Either way though, I think the drive kind of surprised me. The drive definitely actually threw it flatter than the Grace did, and they landed almost in the same spot. And I thought this would have a lot less distance, the drive, but it seemed to have similar distance, but a little more turn. Let's rip some big drives on the gauntlet number 3, 460 foot par 4, up a hill. Paige Pierce drive. Drift. It's not gonna hold enough. Oh, even more Anheuser than that one. Oh, we're gonna have to throw in a lot of Anheuser through this gap. Pull it left to right. A little too committed, Anheuser. Probably a little too low. Oh, hey, buddy. It's a lizard. Okay, a little bit between those in height. Same Anheuser as the Grace. We might get a look with the Captain's Thrasher. Oh, baby. Que stable. It's still not like an overstable driver. Modified overstable is more right. It definitely holds turn when you throw it hard. Shoot. All right, we'll try the other Captain's Thrasher. Under it. Oh man, if I missed that tree, full disclosure, that gauntlet was not a clean gauntlet. Smacked a couple trees with the Grace, one with the Drive. It was clean with the Cap Thrasher, but I had like 6 attempts before that, so I wanted to see how they all flew through it and give myself some sort of look. In the spirit of full transparency. Skip. This is a great drive with the Captain's Thrasher though. Drop in there. Oh, baby, that was not bad at all. Okay, quick look at the Captain's Thrasher here. Kind of looks like a typical driver. You got a little bit of extra dome. If we go ahead and replace that with the Drive, you'll see the parting line kind of drops a little bit on there. It's a little more kind of rounded at the top and the bottom, kind of meets in the middle instead of having a little bit of concavity here for the bevel. Similarly, the Grace looks much more like this guy, just with a lot less aggressive dome. So the parting line seems to be a little lower, this seems to be a little higher, and the Thrasher has the lowest parting line of them all. Basically, you just take the Captain's Thrasher and you dump it down a bit. It did feel like this one had a nose speed a little. Feels like it, but it doesn't really look like it, but it could be there. It's just more blunt. That's what it is. More blunt, no nose speed. Maybe that is what a nose speed is, but that's what I think. Sweat's about to drip in 3, 2, 1. Wow, look at that. Ooh. That's better. Better height. Come on. Oh, that's not bad. Ew. Kick off and in. Oh. Off and in. Oh. Grace just tied it up if we can make this. What? It's tied with the Drive now. Hot starts can be important, but you gotta not try to run it from 100 feet with the driver on a forehand and a low ceiling and get a chin high. Since we've been throwing drivers, of course we have to do a one-shot distance contest. We'll get started with the classic Thrasher. See how flippy this guy is when we throw it pretty hard. We'll go Captain's Thrasher nest. Good thing we have another Captain's Thrasher. I've thrown these other two, so I should know how they fly. Paige Pierce, Drive. No, get the nose down. That's nice. Get out of there. Go, 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 go. That one's gonna be far. So the one that I burned over went 365. I stalled out the Drive at 398. 4, 1, 2, 3. 393. The Grace was just kind of hyzer the whole way. 455. 1, 2, 1. But that was way righter than this Thrasher, which was more in line. So that means that that one only went 436. And the Bomber Boy. Please tell me I didn't pass it already. Where are you? Oh, back here. 472. Not bad. Back to the 9th hole. Let's see who wins this thing. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed a much less sweaty me. And now I hope you enjoy a forehand on this last hole. Well, I have to enjoy it because I have to birdie one. One of these. Doesn't matter which one it is. I just have to throw a good enough forehand to get a birdie. Even if I make a long putt. Otherwise, someone is getting the Captain's Thrasher before I leave today. I will say, the Drive, it regrew me a little bit. I think the main thing I have is that it's a little less torque resistant. So if it wobbles more, it's gonna like get a little too understable, whereas these I think will hold a little more torque. And so that might be the main difference. The stability I think is pretty comparable, middle stable, a little more overstable. This one's more comparable to the ESP Swirl Captain's Thrasher. And then the Thrasher is like way less stable than all these guys. Do have a tailwind, which is gonna be helpful. I just have to trust myself here. Is this the new queen of distance drivers? I think it still is the Grace. I do have a good history with this, so I may be biased towards it, but it's got less dome than I'd like now in my drivers. This is definitely more of what I'd like. But for some reason, I find a little more trust in this one. Even if it's a little flippier than this, I don't know exactly what it is. My ranking, I think, would be Grace and then Captain's Thrasher, 1 step, and then 2 steps below it would be the Drive. But that doesn't mean it's a bad disc. I just really, really like the Grace, and I actually really like the Captain's Thrasher. So that being said, Grace has the box, and then the Drive, and then the Cappy Thrashy. One good forehand, man. That's all we need from you. That's not bad. big old skip though. It's a long putt. Come on. I don't want to have to make a big putt. See, like that's the little wobble. It took it way lefter than I think the Grace would have gone. But then it got the stability back. So that's where I think it's the torque resistance thing, not a stability thing. Come on, we can do this. Don't try too hard, just throw it clean. Oh no, that was gonna be parked. I gotta make a putt. Good thing I have 3 putts at it. Wow, okay. This is my farthest look. You can kind of see the Grace in the background there. That Captain's Thrasher was like legit parked, but it hit that log and bounced right backwards. A little frustrating, but I'm pretty happy about these because we got 3 good looks. Got to drain 1 circle 2 putt. Let's go, baby. Thanks for watching. I was gonna show you that I made all 3 of them, but then I airballed it with the second one. So I appreciate you guys. Subscribe. Snag all these discs if you want at Infinite. I'll leave them linked down below, as well as my Signature Series and Tour Series discs. Still making sure daily's happening until the baby gets here. So subscribe if you'd like to see more. Sorry, Jamie.